Hey, welcome in, everyone. This is Dan French, Wealthytainment. You guys know the channel. We have a great show and an article that I want to talk about today, and also an interview that came out with Patrick Bet-David. And we were going to talk a little bit about leadership, the difference between an alpha in life, not just in relationship or anything in life, versus somebody that's a flag carrier, right? Somebody always wants to be, or most people I think want to be the alpha, and then sometimes people don't really understand how to navigate or carve their way to becoming an alpha. And sometimes you're just, you're a flag carrier, and we're going to talk about this here in a second. So anyways, if you guys like the information, please hit the like button, subscribe. Also, any comments that you guys want to put out, Chris and I will answer those questions. So Chris, what's going on, man? How are you?
How you doing, brother? Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I've been up since a little earlier. It already feels like the afternoon.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, man? I know you've been working. Anything new in your world?
No, just you and I getting this podcast going, focusing a lot on that. Lately, man, I went down the rabbit hole on desks. You knew about that, and man, it's with the marketing and all the options out there. You can get inundated with just information overload on different YouTube. I've been on YouTube myself, so I am a consumer of what it is that we're out here promoting. Anyhow, so going through that, and so I haven't pulled the trigger on a standing desk yet. However, for any of the listeners, if you have any recommendations, would love to hear what those are.
Well, man, I'll tell you, I bought equipment myself. It's not an easy task. I put together a studio before, and it was fun. It was one of those things where, you go online and you look around and you want to find the right type of equipment that'll suit everybody. And it's very difficult. And sometimes even with just a desk, it gets into a point where, man, am I getting the right desk? I mean, I think you know what you want, but you're spending, it's not like going out and spending a couple $100s. Sometimes these desks run up to $1,000. So it's probably more of a situation if you don't want to have to choose the wrong desk. It has to fit what your needs are. So there is a process to this, right, Chris?
Oh yeah, 100. Yeah, and that you hit it right on the nail. Is that what I've been finding in terms of, because buy it once, then you don't have to buy it twice. You know that saying. And so I definitely don't want to buy a desk just to kind of appease a short-term need. I'd rather spend a little bit more and get a desk that can last either the rest of the time, or if I do have to upgrade from there, it will be at least 5 to 7 years. I won't have to upgrade. So that's another angle that I'm also looking at too. I'm not just trying to buy anything in a sense.
So let's get into this topic, man. I want to talk about this article and this interview that I was reading about. Nice people finish last, but they also finish first. It's people that, are givers, or are people that would like to help people. In essence, they come in last. Now, there's also different layers of being an alpha or just running something like a job or something, let's say a corporation. And there's a difference in running your household, right? And so it goes in just different stages, if you want to call it. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a flag carrier. So what that means is that if you're, let's say, a number one, or you're somebody that is not the decision maker, but you're maybe right there, there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people want to be an alpha, and I think it comes down to, is it leadership? But if you're talking about leadership versus becoming an alpha male, we're going to talk about that today. You have anything else to say about that, Chris?
No, we can get right into the topic, brother. I'm ready to talk about it. I mean, I think what happens is that if one, doesn't matter if it's a male or female, if they feel like there's a lot of pressure in whatever situation that they're in, that can cause, stress, which we already know is at an all-time high today, and moving forward. People have responsibilities, bills, different stresses in your life, family, loved ones, people getting sick, people getting older. And so that can just add to the everyday stresses of life, right? And then responsibility, we'll just talk about men for a second, because that's the topic today. That can be an overload as well. And so learning how to take the reins and I think manage stress. Stress is okay, but just managing it is where if you mismanage it, it can cause a lot of problems for you. Or for
let's
one,
go. Let's do this, Chris. I know you were talking about it. Let's listen to what Patrick Bet-David had to say about this. We'll listen to what some of the problems that people run into, and then we're going to say, talk a little bit about what's going on as far as how people are remedying those problems or trying to fix those issues, and then ultimately we'll give our opinion and conclude what this show's about. So let's listen to what he has to say really quick.
For example, when you break down who you want to be in life, okay, I don't know if you're a sports guy or not, you watch a sports team, there's a guy that's just a supporting cast. That's what he does. That's the role he's going to play. There's a guy that is coming off the bench, and he does what he does. Then there's a guy that's the flag carrier to the best guy. Okay, each team's got a flag carrier in a lot of places. There was this player named Paul George. He runs a podcast with one of my good friend, Dudley Rutherford's son, Dallas. They do a very good job together, and they interview other basketball players. And he said something so powerful in one of the podcasts. He says, look, it took me years to realize I can't win a championship as a number one. He says, I've been the best player on a team. I can't win a championship as a number one. I can win a championship as a 2 and a 3, but I can't win as a 1. Guess what? He realized he has to be a flag carrier. He's not a 1. This week I had Ron DeSantis on the podcast. Governor Ron DeSantis, right. Should watch the whole thing because it's a pretty fiery podcast that
get to the end.
Caused...
you have so much content now that...
Well, and ended up causing the number 2 trending hashtag for 2 days.
Did you guys end up arguing? Because the part I saw, you guys were very cordial.
We didn't end up arguing, but I asked him a couple tough questions about marketing, his boots, and all this other stuff, and a video of him, Trump. Anyways, it was a bunch of different things we talked about. But when I'm talking to DeSantis, I asked him the following question. I said, I think there's 2 different types of presidents. And he says, what type? I said, one is alphas.
Yep.
Lincoln is the alpha. Ulysses S. Grant is the flag carrier. He became a 2-term president. Not a great president, but he was not an alpha. Okay, he needed Lincoln to be the flag carrier too. Ike, alpha. Nixon, he was a flag carrier. John F. Kennedy, alpha. LBJ took him out. He became president, allegedly. You got Reagan, alpha. Okay, senior is a flag carrier. You got Obama, alpha. Bill Clinton, alpha. Those 2 are alphas. Trump, alpha. George Bush the son, flag carrier, father, lineage, Prescott. Then you have Biden today. He's a flag carrier. His way of becoming a president was, Obama, you're the greatest, you're the best, you're this, you're that. Boom. This is your opportunity for being loyal to me. Now I will come work for you. You become the president, right? I asked Governor DeSantis, do you think you're the alpha or a flag carrier? Okay. Now his answer could be whatever he thinks it is, but the market's going to determine whether he's an alpha or he's a flag carrier.
What do you think? He said alpha. Well,
he said
technically
alpha.
He said I'm a leader.
And by the way, you may be an alpha in a room of 50. You may be an alpha in a company of 1,000. You may be the alpha in a company of 100,000. You may be the alpha in a state of 30 million, but you may not be the alpha in a country of 340 million. Alphas have levels, and it depends what level of an alpha you can be.
All right, so Chris, we listened to what he had to say. Being a leader in all facets of life. And I think a lot of people want to be a leader. They have to have self-leadership. And some people don't have that attribute. Is it something that you are given, or is it something you develop? I don't know. Is it a DNA thing? I feel that sometimes you're born into a situation, and let's say there's no father in the household and you become that leader. You become that. Or even if it's a girl, maybe they become the mother of that household if it's just the father. Whatever the leadership is, sometimes at a young age, you take on that role. And I think when you start to enhance, as far as leadership outside of just the household, now you're talking about business. Now you're talking about maybe going into a job, you're working for an employer, and you want to move up the chain and you show leadership or self-leadership. And I think that's what people are always striving for. Being an alpha to me, and we'll talk to you about this here in a second, of what he said. He's saying it's okay. There's leaders of the country that were, carrying the flag, and there's leaders that are just people that come in and they're just, right away, I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to, make stuff happen. And it's usually people that, I wouldn't say that are givers, but they don't take any crap, if you want to call it. Like, it's people that come in and they're just very assertive. They're people that come in and they have a direction of exactly what they want. And I would say they're going to step on anybody, but they're not going to take any alternate route. Now, there's some good and bad to that, but I think that's the traits that they're talking about as far as an alpha goes, or somebody that makes decisions. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, we'll just start with the first point, is that leadership, right? A leader is someone who can get people to move without force. So you can be assertive, but if no one is willing to move with you or follow your message or your path, then you're just someone that's an alpha male and really doesn't have any impact. That doesn't serve anything. So for me, at least, that's how I view that. So just squash that, because there's a lot of people who are assertive and they would so call themselves alpha. But what is your impact, right? And so we'll just use a couple examples. Like, a leader is not always assertive. There's a lot of people who can get people to move without force, that speak kindly, that speak with care, and that speak without feeling like I don't want to use the word aggression, but feel like they don't have to come over top of you and using an intimidation factor. So that's my first point on that. And you could tell me what you think.
Well, I think the world is lacking self-leadership today. I think that when you look at our world today and what people do, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do with your actions. And I think you can speak softly, like you said. It's not about coming in and rah, rah, rah. It's about, if you say you're going to do something, regardless if it's something that, you don't really want to do, that's taking leadership roles, right? If somebody's sick, like you said, and you got to take control and be that person that will come in and handle business and just say, look, this is part of life. You're going to have to make adjustments. That's one of them. How about the fact that, if the economy starts to slow down and income doesn't go up for people, and yet you still got to make adjustments and figure out a way. And I think leadership is in different layers. I think when you talk about being an alpha male, there's a difference between, I think, being a leader and alpha. An alpha is somebody, in my opinion, that comes in and it's kind of like my way or the highway. A lot of times they don't listen to reason. Sometimes they do, but I'm just saying a lot of times they don't. Where I think a leader is, you're going to assess everything around you and you're still going to listen to what others have to say. You still don't want to be that number one. You still have your goals and your motivation, but I think you have well-roundedness, that you're going to listen to somebody and at least listen to what their ideas are, maybe implement them, maybe not, but ultimately you're going to give everybody a chance. At the end of the day, though, you're still making the final decision. And I think that's what people look at. There's a lot of people that can't recognize if there's somebody that is just not a leader or takes the reins, or somebody that, comes into a situation and can just make decisions, and good or bad, you live with it and you move on, but it's always calculated decisions. I think that goes on, like I said, in the household. If you're trying to be run a business, definitely a business, there's no blueprint here that says anything. It's just educated decisions, and you keep the crusade going, and you got to keep that position, that it doesn't mean that you have to be that, I'm going to take advantage. Because, people always say nice people finish last. Givers don't get back in return what they give. There's a lot to that, right? But if going into it that that's not the role of what you're trying to do, you're trying to set an example. You're being a leader by saying, look, I have a way. Hopefully you follow my path, like you said. There's some merit to that, right?
Yeah, I think what you said in the very first response, you said that if you say you're going to do something, then do it. And self-leadership is actually what gains popularity with the acknowledgement from a role that you're trying to display. So for instance, let's just say you want to be a leader in your home, right? And if your wife and your kids or whoever is in your household don't see patterns or habits of you keeping to your word, well, no one's going to want to follow that. I can't imagine how anyone would want to follow that. So I think that's the first step, is self-leadership. And through self-leadership, what will happen is that people will want to follow you without force, because you're someone who keeps their word. You're someone who does what they say they're going to do. And ultimately, you're consistent. And so,
is it like, you know what, today it's just okay to be average, mediocrity? It's just okay to, go work a job and then just do a 9 to 5 and then live a very modest, very, I would say a lifestyle that's just very plain or very just, conservative? I mean, is that something that you're seeing more today with people?
Well, first and foremost, there's nothing wrong with wanting to, I don't want to say mediocre, but there's nothing wrong with somebody not wanting the spotlight. I agree with it. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I think a leader that's part of being a self-leadership, is being confident with that, not worrying about how many eyeballs are on you, and not worrying about how the spotlight is hung up on you. Like, you're self-confident and you can be confident and secure with what you're doing with your everyday life. And back to what you say about society, not owning that. And when you can't own that responsibility or that position of where you are currently, that's how you have where we have, right? What is it? Fear of missing out, stuff for the gram, TikTok, and everyone's trying to be up on the latest. Most people are trying to be up on what's new, and everyone is presenting like they have it figured out. And I don't think you ever have it figured out. I think you're always learning. You're always going in forward progress, and that's my response to that. I think that how can I word this? I think that there's right now today in society, they are giving excuses to people, right? And it starts with what is it? Pee Wee football, right? It's horrible that there's no score. So I think the truth needs to start coming back. Hey, if you suck at something or you're not good at something, there's nothing wrong with being told that you aren't good at that thing, right? And either you need to work on it to get better at it, or you'll decide that, hey, this thing that I'm trying to do, that's just not my strength. And I think that self-leadership is being a star in your role, what it is that you bring to win in any situation that you're in, and knowing when to step back. That's actually true leadership, stepping back and letting someone else be the star. So I think it starts from just right now, currently in today's society, starting from very early adolescent age, is that, you have to have a winner and you have to have a learner. We won't use loser. You have to have a winner and you have to have a learner, and not everybody can win. And if everyone can win, then no one can handle it when they feel like they have failed at something.
When I went into working with my job, there was people I went into the corporation to, and I was like, you know what? Why is this person doing so much? I don't want to put out names, but why are they doing so good? What makes them different? And there's certain things that people have, like I said, that different attributes that people bring to the table. One is better at sales and being out there and shaking hands and kissing babies. Some people are better at paperwork or making sure that internal things, systems are going well. And then some people are just technologically smart about whatever area that they're in. But when you talk about people that are leaders, I feel you have an idea of all of those things and recognizing that you can't be all those things. There's going to be rock stars and people that are a lot better than you at those things, and you do what you do well, and then you get people around you that's going to enhance that if you can't come up to that. It's very, very, I would say less frequent, or it's very rare that you find somebody that has all of those attributes of being the leader, the salesman, the technological person behind the scenes. That's why when you have corporations, different people run different facets of the corporation. As far as running a country, do we really know that they're running a country? We don't know. I would say not, especially with Biden. I'm not saying that I hate Biden. I don't think he has the capacity really to do what's needed here. And I'll just leave it at that. But if you look at our current president, right? Is he a leader? Is he an alpha? Or is he a flag carrier? What are your thoughts? Because they brought this up.
Well, for one, to be a president, whatever the society may think, industry plant, or it's orchestrated, you cannot be the president of any country and be a doormat. It's just, I don't believe that, right? You have to have something in terms that represents leadership, alpha, assertiveness, firm, standing in your word, believing in what you say. So any president that's been a president of any country, let alone the United States, has that somewhat of mental makeup of leadership.
Is it partly strength, Chris? Like if you look at a person like Biden, he doesn't present a lot of internal strength or fortitude, right? Of doing things. And you said, yeah, it's not being assertive. I think there's a part of that has to be assertive. Because if you can't emphasize what your position is, and I'm not saying that he's not coming out and talking, but a lot of it is he coming out and showing and being a leader of men and women? Does he have the history of doing that? And is he presenting himself in a way where people are like, I can follow a person like that, right? Can I follow his character? Can I follow how he presents himself? And does his word back up, which I'm going to say almost every president says things that doesn't really happen, but is he doing things and then backing his word up? And is he a leader of men and women?
A leader of men and women? I don't think you need to be a leader of men and women to be a leader. I don't think that. I think that like I said, whether, and then there's a different topic, but whatever the conspiracy theorists may think is that presidents are chosen, they don't win these elections. I mean, even if that's the case, you still have to get people to buy in, at least temporarily, to you running an entire country. So,
is that part of not being assertive though, and presenting yourself that you have the capacity to get you to the promised land or take this crusade the direction it needs to go and jump on my ship? Because you're selling yourself. If you're looking at that position of are people buying into who he is as a president, and are they following his leadership? Are they following what he stands for? It's not politics. It's characteristic of just being an alpha versus somebody out there that's just a flag holder. Where do you think he's at?
Well, okay. Well, becoming a president and being a president are two different facets. So I see where you're going now. And for whatever reason, he needed to present to himself that he could lead men and women in the United States. And he did what he needed to do at that point to get in. But now that he's there, is he, it doesn't matter who's president in my foresight. The society is going to do what it's going to do, and the marketplace and the people represent that. And will he win again? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I don't follow it enough to give an educated response in terms of policies and things like that. I'll just say that just from being in the workplace and talking to different people, it seems like a lot of people are not satisfied with his performance. To me, it doesn't affect me here or there. So I can't, like I said, I can't give a response in terms of like what I think he's doing is a leader role. However, he became the president and then because we'll say this, like, no different than someone has always worked somewhere, right? Unless you were born into money. And we'll say interview well. There's people who interview well, right? Now, he's going to be great. And he or she is going to be great. Then they get into that position and they fall flat. So some people just interview well, and then when they get into that position, it's like, whoa, what happened to the person that interviewed, right? This is not going how we expected. And becoming and being are just two different aspects.
So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to come out and say he's not a leader. I'm going to come out and say that he got his position because, yes, he's had leadership roles, but even in a vice president role, he's never been a leader to me. I think the reason why you don't follow a lot of the politics and a lot of the stuff that goes on is because, one, there's not a buzz behind it. Secondly, you're not really a decision maker on it. But I feel if somebody did what they said or had a leadership role or at least presented themselves that way, I think people would be more in tune to what he has to say. And it doesn't matter that he's a president. I'm just talking about him as a person. He's older. Obviously, he's longer on the tooth. There's a lot of people out there that, feel like he's unqualified for the job. He's putting, sometimes words together that don't come together. Again, this is not a knock on Biden. It's not politics. It's just looking at somebody's character. He's in a leadership role, and he's in one of the most prestigious or the prestigious role that there is that's in lights, right? That's out there. So for me, I'm going to say that he's not, based off of what I see and based off of how people are looking at him and following whatever his words are. Now, if you go through, we're going to just kind of skim through the rest of these people. Do you think that Trump was an alpha or he's a flag carrier?
Trump is an alpha, 100%.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's good. I'm not saying he's good for doing that. It's his character. It's his way or the highway for the most part, right? Part of the leadership is you got to understand the things around you and be self-aware. I think he lacks that. Somewhat of a narcissist. That's just my opinion. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but I think he lacks that. And I think people have to have self-awareness. So I think he's an alpha to the fullest extent. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. It's he. I don't even want to really call it alpha. It's probably another layer, another added layer to that.
Yeah, it's narcissism.
Yeah,
I think it's a combination, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but it served him. It served him, right? It has served him. So it's too late in the game for someone of his age because that's what he knows and it's worked. He's had a lot of success, with before becoming president, and back to self-leadership and self-belief. People might have thought he was nuts. Like, you're not. And as long as you are the only believer of your truth, I guess we saw that he won the presidency, and that alpha male and I guess my narcissism, whatever that we may want to label it as, got him into the White House, and he can say that he was the president of the United States. And so there's cases where it helps, there's cases where it hurts, and there's cases where it's just neutral.
Well, I'm gonna say one other thing here about Trump. Now, Trump himself, he got himself into this situation, in my opinion. Again, I don't go and talk about politics. I think they're all, I think for presidents and things, there's other things going behind the scenes that is running a country, but they are the face of the country. Now, where Trump, I feel, didn't understand things is that you can't just be alpha all the time. And what I mean by that is it's okay to direct a ship. It's okay to run a ship and, hey, this is how we want to do things and we're going to make changes around here. No problem. But if you even look at a corporation or any company or any business, there is other players. To be a leader, you first have to lead yourself, but then you have to lead others. And when you only have half of let's say the corporation or half of the population believing in your situation and the other half is not, there is a point where you got to say, well, let's have some self-awareness.
No, he got the role based on strong beliefs, right? He caught momentum after he said, build the wall, right? Most people would think that, oh, I'm not going to say that, right? That's not strategic. If I say that, I won't win. But he had the I guess the mental fortitude or the belief that other people felt like how he felt. And then he caught fire, he caught momentum from build the wall, and he rolled that into the presidency. And those strong beliefs, whether good or bad, got him in there. And then when someone has a consistent win percentage on these things, it can cause blind spots. And so we'll just use someone like him. They might not have a filter because in the past, having a filter has not worked out. Yeah, right. Having a filter has not worked out, and not having no filter has worked out. And so now that you're in there, that one is in there with the success of doing something, and we'll take it back to sports. You get all the way to the Super Bowl from outscoring everybody, okay? Not really relying on your defense. Then you get to the Super Bowl, and now you're having a problem scoring, right? And you haven't worked on your defense. Well, sometimes when we're watching the game, we're like, why are they doing that? Why do they keep doing the same thing? Because it's worked up until now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when you get to the big game, you don't know how to pivot out of that, So same thing with this situation that we're talking about now. From the outside looking in, we're like, why would someone do that? Why does he not see that? Well, he's just had a pattern of all this success leading up to that. And so now he or she would continue to try to do that same thing to try to see if they can get the same result until it's, either too late or they don't care, which is fine. That's up to them. That's their path and their journey, however they want to, continue on with that. But I think the illustration with sports best serves that. A team gets all the way to the Super Bowl. What they're doing in the Super Bowl is not working, and they don't know how to adjust, pivot out of halftime. And now they're like, what happened, right? We did this thing all throughout the season to get to the big game. We got here and we fell flat. Well, because the other team made adjustments. The other team saw what you didn't see. And before you knew it, you ran out of time and you lost the game.
Well, I'm going to say I agree with that. Now, I'm going to say that also, too, though, with presidents and especially him, using with no filter also is part of the reason why you got in trouble. And we've all been there. I've been there myself, like where I'm running a business or running properties or whatever I'm doing. And you start to get in that mode of like, hey, do it. I said to do it type of attitude. And like, hey, and sometimes it comes across as being very abrasive. And it almost makes it seem like you don't have a say into whoever that is doesn't have a say into it. So I know from my personal experiences, when I started to, treat people a little differently, maybe become overly assertive. I think talking to people or talking down to people in some cases, which I've done and I've had to catch myself. That's not a good trait to have. And I think that's where I'm trying to come in with talking about Trump is you gotta get to a point where you have to have self-awareness that we all make these mistakes. You start seeing success, you start seeing things happen. Like I said, there was a time where I was working with somebody and this lady said, basically you gotta take time to explain things better to me. You're not doing that. Secondly, she's like, you're just, do, get these things done. And then it's all about numbers and it's all about putting out, and I was kind of running it like a corporation. And I felt that she lost a little bit of, I wouldn't say trust, but respect. A little bit of in the beginning, she was following me. She was all about what I wanted to do. And then over time, she was like, you know what, man, I feel like you're talking down or you're doing things that necessarily does not benefit me. And I feel that I'm doing a good job here. So there was something that I had to catch within myself. And unless somebody or something checks you, at that point, you got to make a decision. It doesn't mean you go cower and you say, well, maybe I'm doing it all wrong. I got to do something else. It just means, let me check myself and let me take a step back here and let me have more self-aware. There is part of being an alpha where you have to understand the audience in the room, because who are you leading other than yourself if you don't have other people following you, like you said? So I think with that situation, he went too far. That's my opinion. I think he's definitely alpha. Now I want to jump to another person here. So Barack Obama, there was people just didn't, they didn't, some people were receptive and welcomed him in. The thing about Obama, and you got to give him respect, is when he came into a room, one, he knew how to come into a room and he demanded respect, or he demanded people to acknowledge him. There's not a lot of people that can do that. The second thing is that he backed up his word on some of these things that he was talking about, but he was very good on speaking. One thing I want to bring up is there was a gentleman that came out recently that said, he went, I don't know where this was at, but I don't know if it was for fallen soldiers, but he was a president that sat there for 45 minutes with a salute. A lot of people liked Obama. There was a lot of people that didn't like Obama. But I'm going to say the masses overall, at one point, he was a very high respected, president. He obviously served 2 terms. Do you think he's an alpha, or do you think he's somebody that's a flag carrier, or somebody that's a not such an alpha?
Well, back to any president of any country possesses some sort of alpha trait. So 100%, he's an alpha, man or woman. We'll just say that there's been women that ran countries, and they have an alpha, right, energy. We'll just say. So yes, he is. I'm pretty sure an alpha. He won 2 terms. You don't do that it's not luck. And even if it was planted, he had to present that he could run that to the plants. So
absolutely. Look, man, here's the reality of it, Chris, and I'll just say I agree. With his situation, though, he was an elegant speaker, right? He had a very elegant way of talking, but he got to a point, and I feel that maybe later in his term, that alpha turned cocky. I'm not saying he didn't have respect, but then he always had a way of bringing it back. He started to become overly cocky. I think he turned a lot of people off. And then there was a way he could kind of shut it down a little bit or turn it back. If he would have just kept down that path, he would have pissed more people off. And again, we're just going off of characters of presidents at this point. We're going to talk about sports here in a second. But he's definitely an alpha. You have anything else to say about him?
No, he's an alpha. And I mean, at the end, who cares, right? Alphas doesn't care who likes them and who doesn't, who they make mad. They don't. So at that point, he can't win another term. So at that point, it's like, who are you and why do I care? And it could come off as cocky. It could. However, I mean, in life, you can't make everybody happy. So I think it's better to just stand in who you truly are and make a lot of people mad than be fake and try to make everyone happy.
I want to talk about Tom Brady. Is he an alpha? Is he a leader? Is that something that you would think of as a leader? I mean, people reference to sports a lot, but is he somebody that you can see you would follow him if you were in a huddle with him?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think sports figure. Not to put a sports figure on a pedestal at all, because we're all creators. We're all men of the Creator, men and women of the Creator, and so I think that what he did and was able to accomplish in his football career would not have happened had he not been alpha mixed with leader. So.
But do you think it was developed? Because I don't think a lot of people just have that trait. I think it was developed because he was actually taken in the 5th round, but he had a chip on his shoulder and he was there to prove people wrong, which ultimately turned him into being an alpha or leader, because he put himself in a position where he's saying, you know what, at all costs, I'm going to make it. And I'm going to show people through my actions and back it up with my play that I'm going to be the best quarterback in this league. I think I don't feel he was an alpha in the beginning. He may have some traits. I think he became that because of the chip on his shoulder, and then getting to where he became over hard work and understanding of what's gone on. And then ultimately he became a leader and then ultimately gained respect from people. And just like that with presidents, then they can say and classify him as an alpha persona. Is that right?
Nah, the leadership part, I could agree with you there, because you can learn how to become a leader. The alpha part, no, I think that's ingrained.
And where do you think that comes from, though? What part do you think that comes from?
What, the alpha part?
Yeah.
I think that's something that you get as a small child. And then as you grow through life, your life experiences, how you react to things, that shapes whether you're going to have this alpha trait or not. And then utilizing it, right? Because some people have an alpha trait and it's dormant because they don't know how to utilize it. That could be another aspect as well. However, that what he did is not luck. It's not luck. That's not. You cannot teach that. He had it in him, and was put in a position to let that come out of him, to show the world that I'm here and I'm gonna leave my legacy footprint on this game that we call football. And 100 years after I'm gone, and another 100 years after that, my name will be remembered forever and foremost. So, no, what he did and that type of achievement cannot be. That's not that's not teachable. You don't teach that.
What about this, man? I got a question on something. What about LeBron James? Right, he's a number. I'm saying these figures because there's such a face of a a franchise, or face of a league. LeBron James has been around, and he's got a lot of mixed reviews or controversy on how he handles himself. A lot of people don't like LeBron James. A lot of people don't like how he carries himself, or the ways that he does, kind of throwing tantrums and stuff. And so, to you, do you feel like he's a leader?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. He's a 4-time world champion, NBA, and he does not allow outside noise to dictate his decisions. So
yeah, but let me say this: if he's a leader, and he's saying that he doesn't have any noise or outside noise that doesn't distract him, I think where he's at is he's not a leader in winning, in my opinion, because that's not the only. I don't think that's the most important thing to him. I think he wants to win at everything, meaning he wants to win at basketball. He wants to win at being the highest paid player. He wants to win at, doing movies. He wants to win at business. He wants to win. He has, to me, a very narcissistic, it's about me attitude. And I don't know him that well, so I'm not going to sit here and say I know him, but from what I see of him, and it's okay if he doesn't win basketball games, because he's probably thinking I'm winning in other areas of life. Where if you think somebody like a Michael Jordan, which is a different style leader, he wants a result. He wants to win. His purpose is there to win. You never heard him talk about like how much money he made off the court, or his businesses, or anything like that, starting podcasts, whatever it was. He was just there to make that basketball team or that situation the ultimate result, which is winning championships. Do you think that there's different styles to this? Because I think LeBron is more laid back. His leadership comes in, well, we had a bad season, guys. Let's kind of fix this, or we're doing this. But he's not really. He doesn't have that alpha trait to me, where people go there and they just want to follow him. They want to follow his lead. I think part of being like a Kobe or like a Jordan is you got to be an asshole a little bit. And I'm not saying, that's where you got to retract it, but you have to have some asshole in you. And I don't know if he has that.
Yes. He's 38, 39 years old in the NBA, performing at a very high level. So, overall number one scorer in the history of the game. He scored more points than any other basketball player in the history of the game, with all the other stats and accolades that he has. You cannot accomplish that by the roll of the dice. So he is 100% a leader. Whether he's a leader of men, a leader of whatever people want to follow him, he's a leader in his own life. So there is no blueprint. There is no, one size fits all of what leadership is. You cannot accomplish the things that he's accomplished not being a leader. It's impossible.
Look at Larry Fink, right? Larry Fink is the we're going to talk about him, and then we're going to end the show, and we're going to talk about what I think about this whole situation, the differences. Larry Fink is BlackRock. He's the guy that has 65% of the S&P 500. He owns of the 500 top companies in America. And people don't know who this guy is, really. I mean, there's some people out there that talk about it, but he's a guy that's probably moving the needle. He's making decisions. He's got a monopoly. Do you think that in his right, being a leader, he's not in the spotlight. He's being and leading in a different way, which is behind the scenes, but he's leading, in my opinion, a lot of decision making in the country. His corporation and other families and corporations, those are the ones really leading the country. Do you feel that being outside of the limelight, or outside of the being out there in the open and not showing yourself, not talking about it, that there's that silent, treatment, where you can lead something or do something, but you don't have to come out and be the front or be the face of it? He's definitely an alpha, but he's a different style alpha, in my opinion, because he's not out there. He's not one, that's talking all the time. He's not doing interviews. He's not doing any of that. He's done a couple, but he's a true alpha. And if you guys don't know who he is, you can look him up. But I feel that he's somebody that is somebody that we don't really know much about, yet he's probably making decisions for everybody that we don't know about because of all the ownership and the percentage of ownership. Do you feel that somebody like him has that same attribute? Is he an alpha, or is he a flag carrier?
Well, I mean, he's running one of the biggest banks, or not, if the biggest bank in the world. So again, you can't, that's not by accident. That's not by sheer luck. You cannot get lucky doing that. That represents a sense of leadership and the alpha trait. And you don't, like, leadership is not about who knows who and who knows what. It's the exact opposite of that. So he's a leader in his role. He's a star in his role, and his role is to, get profits and high risk, high reward for BlackRock, which he's been able to accomplish, and getting people to buy into his message. So yes, that's a huge part of being a leader. Just because people don't know who he is does not make him less of a leader or less of having the alpha trait. Like I said, there's no one size fits all to what leadership is. You have Elon Musk. He's everyone in the world knows who he is, right? He's a leader. And then you have someone like Larry Fink, who runs probably the biggest bank in the world, and not many people, unless you're in the banking sector, would know who he is, and he's also a leader. So I guess it goes back to what we feel and what we think and what we observe doesn't really matter, right? And I guess my closeout for today's podcast is that a true leader, whether you're known or not known, is someone who does what they are moving through life and not worrying about how other people perceive what they're doing as right or wrong. And that's actually true leadership.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Now, I'm going to say my opinion on all this. So I'm going to sum this up. I want to talk a little bit on all the things. We talked about presidents. We talked about sports athletes. We've talked about my personal experiences, how I, maybe mishandled or misguided things or didn't do the right things. And it's okay. People are not going to have a book that comes out that says, here's your blueprint of how to run life or how to handle things in tragedy or whatever it is. I think when you talk about leadership, alpha, flag carrier, when you talk about an alpha is about, in my opinion, somebody that comes in and they are strongly passionate. They have a direct, decisive position on something, and people follow that until it's proven wrong. If you keep doing the things that you're doing, you make mistakes, okay, no problem. But if you get back on that horse and you keep going, so being an alpha, there is a good part to it, but it also could be your downfall. One of the things that you have to think of is, when I was looking up this article said people that are givers, people that set by example, those usually are the ones that finish last, right? They're the ones that are getting taken advantage of. But ironically, when you take the full circle and you go all the way around and say, okay, well, who's the ones that's actually benefiting in a relationship or in a situation or in business? It's the givers. It's the ones that are the people out there that are finishing last, yet they're the ones getting a lot of the reward as well. And a lot of people don't understand that. So coming into it, do you want to be an alpha? Do you want to be a flag carrier? We don't know. Everybody's different. I think it comes down to, do you want to have self-leadership in life? Do you want to hold yourself accountable? And a lot of that is based off of maybe ethics of growing up when you were a kid, the morals and ethics that was instilled to you. And I think that starts at childhood. And then ultimately, do you keep carrying that torch? But I think there's a point in life where you're going to make failures, which I have. You're going to also talk about like, okay, what is my decisions on, should I continue down this road of being it's my way or the highway? Or do you actually say, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to still keep my crusade, but I'm going to gather more bees with honey by getting these people on my ship, right? And going down the direction if my message is caught by more people than not. And how does that work? Because you have to have self-awareness. You don't take away from what your beliefs are. You're not going to be able to turn everybody and say, hey, I want you as a subscriber. I want your opinion. You're going to get people that are aligned to you. What it comes down to is that are you developing a path of what you believe, like your belief is, what your ethics are, and what you think is the right way to do something based off of what your experiences have been, and also coming into a situation with confidence. I think you have to have confidence, and I think you have to have a blend of understanding and I think self-awareness. And I think there's a point where if you start to develop success, do you keep becoming that person that people start to get turned off on, or they start to feel that you're too cocky, or you don't have self-awareness and you're just, saying stuff that's stupid? The message has to be, there's going to be people that follow you and some people that don't. In life in 2024, I think we're all looking to become better. We're all looking to have a better position and continuing to grow as people. Because like Chris said, you don't stop growing. It doesn't just end once you find something and you got to a certain level. It's a constant thing in life. There's going to be new challenges and new things coming up. It's how you handle it and the decisive and decision making that you handle it with, and then having that self-awareness, in my opinion. If you guys have any questions, this is Dan French. This is Wealthytainment. Subscribe, like the channel, leave any comments. We'll see you guys at the next one. We're out of here.